Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at, well, a really significant incident. Something that's making big organizations, even sophisticated ones, kind of rethink their whole security posture. We're digging into the cybersecurity breach at the University of Pennsylvania, the one discovered right on Halloween, October 31st, 2025.
Yeah, and this deep dive is important because, look, this wasn't some super complex attack exploiting a zero-day flaw in a server somewhere.
Yeah.
This was different. It felt more surgical. It targeted the biggest weakness any organization has. Always, the human factor.
Okay.
Penn themselves said the breach came from, and I'm quoting here, a sophisticated identity impersonation commonly known as social engineering.
Right, social engineering. Okay, let's unpack that. Our mission today really is to get past the headlines, the lawsuits, that bizarre mass email they sent out later.
Oh, yeah.
And really focus hard on the technical mechanism. How did this happen? How does a major university, well-funded, says it has a robust information security program? How does it get compromised by basically one thing, someone's identity?
That's the core question, isn't it? And the initial facts, coming from Penn's own investigation, they confirm the attackers went after these, let's call them auxiliary systems.
Right.
Things dealing with development, alumni relations, fundraising, marketing, that sort of thing. They definitely got in, got unauthorized access, and yes, data was stolen.
And the central problem, it seems obvious already. It all hinged on tricking an employee, getting their credentials through social engineering.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, organizations spend millions probably on firewalls, intrusion detection, all the tech.
All the bells and whistles.
Yeah. And yet, time after time, the key to the kingdom is just someone pretending to be someone else and asking nicely. Or maybe not so nicely.
Well, it's because humans, we operate outside the rules of code, don't we? Social engineering isn't about finding a bug in software. It's psychology. It's manipulation. Tricking a person into breaking the rules, giving up a password, clicking a bad link. The reports strongly suggest this was probably a very targeted phishing attack.
Like pretending to be IT support or maybe a senior person?
Could be. Something designed to look legitimate enough to fool one specific employee into giving up their login details. It just hammers home that uncomfortable truth. Your people, their identities, that's your most vulnerable point, even with all the fancy tech defenses.
Okay, let's get technical then. Why was that one employee's stolen identity such a big deal? What made their credentials the skeleton key here?
The prize, the absolute jackpot, was getting access to the university's central identity system. It's called the PennKey account.
PennKey?
Yeah, it's Penn's version of single sign-on, or SSO. You know SSO, right?
Sure. Log in once, get into lots of different apps.
Exactly. It's like the master key for the digital campus. Yep. Instead of juggling, say, 20 different passwords for your email, the student record system, the library database, the CRM, you just log in once with your PennKey. And that system basically tells all the other connected apps, yep, this person is who they say they are, let them in.
So the second the attackers got that one PennKey login, they weren't just in that person's email.
Oh, no, not at all. They potentially had, as Penn put it, full access to every system connected through that PennKey.
Wow.
That's the fundamental danger of SSO, right? If that initial identity layer, that login, isn't super protected, and we're talking mandatory multi-factor authentication, MFA.
Right, the code from your phone or app.
Exactly.
Right.
Without that, if they get the password, they just walk straight past the main security gates. They're inside the trusted zone immediately.
They can move around.
That's the term, lateral movement. They use that valid PennKey to just hop between different systems that might not even normally talk to each other directly. Development, marketing, finance.
All connected by that single identity.
Bingo. So what starts as, maybe a simple intrusion or fishness password, it blows up instantly into this massive, deep breach across the whole ecosystem.
What's really striking, almost chilling, about this case is the speed. Usually you hear about breaches where attackers are lurking for weeks, months.
Reconnaissance, yeah. Mapping things out.
This felt different. This was fast, shockingly fast.
The timeline is, well, it's the kind of thing that gives security pros nightmares. The sources we have suggest access was gained late on October 30th, 2025.
Okay.
The attackers themselves basically confirmed they grabbed most of the data they wanted by the afternoon of October 31st, Halloween.
So less than 24 hours.
Pretty much. PennStat spotted the intrusion on the 31st, locked down that compromised PennKey account right away, but the damage, the data exfiltration, was largely done less than a day.
Wow. Less than 24 hours from a successful con job to potentially stealing what was a claim, 1.2 million records.
That was the attacker's claim, yeah. 1.2 million individuals. We need to be clear, Penn hasn't officially confirmed that number, but still.
But the speed tells you something, doesn't it? It says, one, these attackers were organized. They knew exactly what data they were after.
No doubt.
And two, that SSO system, that PennKey, it gave them incredibly efficient access to those high-value targets. They didn't need to hack each system individually.
Precisely. They weren't just poking around randomly. They likely identified the target systems beforehand, probably. These non-core systems holding all that valuable donor and financial information, and they went straight for it. Penn's quick response to contain it was good, definitely commendable, but the nature of the initial compromise meant the damage could happen almost instantly.
Okay, given that speed, that less than 24-hour window, we have to talk about what they got. The volume and, more importantly, the sensitivity of the data. Which specific systems were hit? You mentioned they weren't the core IT systems?
Right. The focus seemed strategically targeted. They went after the systems supporting functions like development, marketing, and sort of the business intelligence side of the university, because that's where the gold was.
A financial profile.
Exactly. Profiles of donors, alumni, high net worth individuals.
Let's walk through that list.
Yeah.
What systems are we talking about? Because, yeah, these often fly under the radar compared to, say, the main student information system.
Okay. First up, the Customer Relationship Management System, the CRM, specifically Salesforce.
Right. Standard tool for managing relationships, donors, alumni contacts.
Is the central hub for all that. Then file repositories. They mentioned SharePoint and Box.
So document storage. Internal stuff.
Yeah, I think internal memos, reports, maybe confidential documents, potentially financial records stored there, stuff you wouldn't want getting out.
Okay. What else? You mentioned analytics.
They got into a reporting application called ClickView. Think of it as an internal dashboard used for tracking performance metrics, financial trends, maybe analyzing donor patterns.
Makes sense.
And really critically, they accessed the Marketing Cloud environment. This was also Salesforce Marketing Cloud. That's used for sending out mass emails, personalized communications.
Uh-oh. I think I see where this is going later.
Yes, we'll definitely come back to that. And finally, reports also mentioned the SAP Business Intelligence system, another place you'd find institutional financial data, operational insights.
It really is a perfect storm, isn't it? They hit the relationship data, the comms system, the file storage, the financial analytics.
All using that one key.
The PennKey. It just highlights how deeply integrated these cloud tools are, right? Salesforce Box, SAP, often managed by specific departments like marketing or development, but tied into the central IT through SSO.
And maybe not getting the same level of security scrutiny sometimes. That oversight can be incredibly costly. Which brings us to the payload. What did they actually steal?
Right. The attackers claimed that huge number, 1.2 million people affected, and 1.71 gigabytes of data.
That was their claim, 1.71 gigabytes. Again, Penn hasn't confirmed the exact number of records, but they have confirmed the type of data stolen, and it's exceptionally valuable, very sensitive.
This isn't just names and emails, is it? This sounds like something much more specific, more dangerous. The attackers call it the vast, wonderfully wealthy donor database.
That phrase tells you everything about their motive. Let's break down what was in there. First, the basics. PII, personally identifiable information.
Okay, like what?
Full names, dates of birth, gender, home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses. Standard stuff for identity theft, unfortunately.
But it went way beyond that.
Oh, yes. They got into the real financial intelligence. Things like gift histories, who donated, when, how much, donation history over time, crucially estimated net worth, wealth ratings assigned by the university, and even lifetime commitment amounts.
Hang on, estimated net worth and wealth ratings. Why is that so much more valuable to an attacker than, say, just a social security number? Let's pause on that.
It's huge because it enables very targeted, high-value attacks. Think whaling, spear phishing aimed directly at the wealthiest individuals.
Okay, explain whaling.
Standard identity theft, like using a stolen credit card, it's often a numbers game, hit lots of people for small amounts. Whaling is surgical. If attackers know you're potentially worth, say, $50 million or $500 million,
right,
and they know which charities or institutions you donate to, like Penn, and maybe even how much you gave last time, they can craft incredibly convincing scams.
How so?
Imagine getting an email that looks exactly like it's from a Penn development officer you might even know. It references your specific donation last year, mentions a new building fund or initiative that sounds real, and asks for an urgent wire transfer. Because they know your approximate capacity, they can ask for a plausibly large amount.
It sounds completely legitimate because they have those real details.
Exactly. It provides the context, the emotional hook, the financial framing to potentially bypass even a savvy donor's usual caution. It's pure gold for sophisticated fraud operations.
That's incredibly worrying. What else was taken?
Beyond the financial data, there was also deeply personal demographic information. Reports mention things like religion, race, sexual orientation, plus employment details and academic affiliations.
Why would they want that? Does it tie back to money?
Not always directly, but it adds layers for manipulation. Think about it. It allows for even more personalized social engineering. Maybe playing on social issues, political leanings, religious affiliations to build rapport or create pressure. It just makes the fish even harder to spot.
Okay, so PII, deep financial profiles, sensitive demographics. And you mentioned documents earlier from SharePoint and Box.
Yes, and this shows just how deep their access went. They apparently exfiltrated confidential internal documents.
Like what kind of documents?
Sources mention things like internal university talking points, the confidential guidance prepared for staff, maybe development officers, on how to discuss sensitive topics or approach donors.
Okay, sensitive stuff.
Very, and even more critically, memos about donors and their families, and actual receipts of bank transactions. Specifically, wire transfer and ACH receipts.
ACH. Explain the significance of getting those receipts.
ACH is the Automated Clearinghouse Network. It's how most electronic bank transfers happen in the U.S. Getting receipts for wires and ACH payments means the attacker saw actual proof of money movement.
So amounts, dates.
Potentially names of the sending and receiving banks, exact amounts, maybe internal account references or codes used by the university's finance department. It proves they weren't just skimming surface-level data, they were digging into files used for managing major financial operations. Their access level might have been equivalent to someone in the finance or development office, not just, say, a generic student account.
And the attackers actually released some of this data, didn't they? That 1.7 gigabytes.
They did. They called it the appetizer. It was released publicly, likely on a leak forum, and it seemed designed specifically to prove they have this deep level of access.
How did they prove it?
Reports suggest they deliberately included information related to very high-profile individuals connected to Penn, like mentioning former Vice President Biden and his family, to demonstrate the sensitivity and authenticity of the data they held. It was a clear signal to potential buyers on the dark web.
A proof of concept. See what we've got. The rest is even better.
Exactly. This is real, it's valuable, and we have a lot more where this came from. It sets the stage for selling the full database.
Which brings us neatly to the attackers' next moves. Their tactics were pretty calculated, weren't they? Especially that second stage, weaponizing a legitimate university system.
Yeah, this part is technically fascinating, and honestly, it holds a huge lesson about cloud security today. After they stole the data, they used Penn's own Salesforce marketing cloud system to blast out that offensive and fraudulent email to reportedly around 700,000 people.
Okay, but hang on. You said Penn discovered the intrusion on October 31st and locked the compromised PennKey account.
That's right.
So, how could the attackers still use the marketing cloud system to send a mass email after the main key, the PennKey, was revoked? That sounds like a major security gap.
It absolutely highlights a common and really dangerous issue with how modern identity systems interact with cloud services. It's about session persistence and cloud vendor tokens.
Okay, break that down.
Tokens. When that employee initially used their PennKey SSO to log into Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the Marketing Cloud platform didn't necessarily just check the PennKey password and forget it. Instead, it likely issued its own independent, potentially long-lasting access credential. We usually call this an access token, often managed using standards like OAuth.
Right, OAuth is used everywhere for app integrations.
Exactly. So think of it like this. Your PennKey is your main building key. You use it to get into the building. Then you go to a specific department, say the marketing department's mailroom, which is Salesforce Marketing Cloud. You might show your building key, and they give you a separate temporary pass card, the OAuth token, that only works inside that mailroom, letting you use their sorting machines and send out mail.
I see.
Now, if the main building management changes the front door lock, revokes the PennKey password, your temporary mailroom pass card might still be valid.
until it naturally expires, or until someone from the mailroom specifically cancels that pass card.
Precisely. The attackers likely still had a valid active session token specifically for Salesforce Marketing Cloud, even after the central PennKey access was cut off. That specific application token let them keep operating inside that environment.
That's a critical technical point. So they weren't hacking Penn's mail servers directly. They're using Penn's official, legitimate Salesforce Marketing Cloud account via that lingering token.
Correct. And the emails were sent from a verified university domain reports mentioned GSE at connect.upn.edu.
Which means
It means those emails sailed right past most spam filters. Email providers saw messages coming from legitimate, trusted infrastructure. Connect.upn.edu, likely hosted or routed through Salesforce. Recipients saw an official university email address.
that compounds the problem massively. It's not just a data breach. It's an identity and trust crisis generated using their own tools.
Absolutely. It made the university look completely compromised, unable to control even its own communications. Maximum embarrassment, maximum chaos.
Speaking of chaos, the motives here seem a bit mixed. It wasn't just about the money, was it?
It seems like a dual-layered approach, which we're seeing more of in cybercrime, the primary goal. Almost certainly financial gain. They explicitly said they wanted to sell that vast, wonderfully wealthy donor database. They intended to, quote, extract plenty of value out of the data ourselves. Money was definitely key.
But that mass email, it wasn't a ransom note. It was filled with really sharp, crude attacks on the university itself, right?
Yeah.
Criticizing admissions, DEI policies, calling the school, well, some pretty harsh names.
Yeah, they called it a dog elitist institution. They themselves described the email as just a fun rant, but you have to think it was more strategic than just fun.
How so?
By mixing the financial theft with this kind of politically charged ideological rant, they guaranteed way more media attention. It tapped into existing debates and tensions around elite universities.
So it amplified the impact, made the breach seem bigger, maybe even increased the pressure on Penn.
Arguably, yes. More chaos, more visibility for their product, the stolen data. It was a very modern tactic, blending financial crime with performative outrage.
And their plan for the data itself, beyond that appetizer release.
Classic extortion playbook, really. Published the 1.7 GBB sample on Leak Forums, showcasing the sensitive internal docs, the high-profile names, to prove they weren't bluffing.
Right, the proof of concept.
Then the threat. We're going to sell this, and if nobody buys it, or maybe even if they do, we'll eventually release the full database publicly in a month or two. It creates urgency, puts pressure on Penn, and motivates potential buyers.
Okay, this brings us to the response. And maybe more importantly, the lessons learned, or that should be learned by every organization from this whole mess. Let's start with Penn's incident response. It sounds like they moved pretty quickly once they detected it.
They did, and honestly, some aspects of their response seem quite commendable, textbook even. First, immediate containment. They found it on the 31st, secured the systems, got things back to operational status pretty quickly. That's crucial.
What else?
Second, they brought in external expertise. They hired CrowdStrike, a top-tier cybersecurity firm. That's vital for deep forensic analysis, making sure the attackers are truly gone, and getting an objective view of what happened and how.
Smart move. Did they involve the authorities?
Yes. Third point, law enforcement. They notified and started working with the FBI, standard procedure for a major breach like this. And fourth, transparency, or at least a commitment to it. They put out an official FAQ, acknowledged the breach, and said they'd notify the people affected. That's key for managing reputation and legal fallout.
Okay, so the immediate cleanup was handled professionally. But we're really interested in prevention, right? The so what for everyone else listening. What technical steps should have been in place or need to be implemented now to stop this kind of identity-based attack?
Lesson number 1, loud and clear, identity first. You absolutely must enforce multi-factor authentication, MFA, everywhere possible, but especially on critical systems like your SSO platform, the PennKey equivalent.
Because if MFA had been on that account,
the stolen password alone would likely have been useless. The attackers wouldn't have had that second factor, the code from the phone, the tap on an app. MFA is probably the single most effective control against this specific type of credential theft attack. It just kills the vector.
and we're assuming the compromised employee was maybe in development or marketing. Their job might not seem high risk from a traditional IT perspective, but their access clearly was.
Which leads straight to point 2. You need rigorous access controls built on the principle of least privilege. Just because someone can have access doesn't mean they should.
Explain least privilege.
It means people only get access to the specific data and systems they absolutely need to do their jobs, nothing more. The fact that this one PennKey could apparently unlock Salesforce development, SharePoint box files, and ClickView SAP analytics, that suggests the account had way too much power.
So regular checkups on who has access to what?
Yes. Periodic access reviews are critical. If that development staffer doesn't actually need to see financial wire transfer receipts as part of their daily job, revoke that access immediately. Minimize the potential blast radius if an account does get compromised.
Makes sense. And since this whole thing started with social engineering training.
Absolutely essential. Mandatory, realistic social engineering awareness training and phishing simulations. And I emphasize realistic, not just generic don't click suspicious links emails.
What makes it realistic?
It needs to mimic the targeted, personalized attacks we're seeing. The kind of phish that might impersonate a specific senior person, reference an internal project, target someone based on their known role or activities. The goal isn't just education, it's inoculation, training people to recognize and resist these sophisticated cons.
Okay, now let's circle back to that really crucial technical point, the Salesforce Marketing Cloud access persisting after the PennKey was revoked. How do organizations prevent that? How do you secure these cloud apps tied to SSO?
This requires a real focus on vendor and cloud scrutiny. You can't just set up SSO with Salesforce or Box or whatever and assume it's secure. You need ongoing security audits specifically for these cloud platforms.
What should those audits look at?
Key things are the author's permissions, what exactly can that integration do, and critically, the token expiration policies. How long do those application-specific access tokens live?
So that Salesforce token might have been valid for weeks or months by default?
It's possible. If the token lifespan was too long, or if Penn's central identity system wasn't properly configured to automatically revoke these downstream application tokens when the main PennKey was disabled or reset, then you have this exact problem. The attackers retain access. Organizations must understand that securing these cloud integrations, including token management, is their responsibility, even if Salesforce hosts the app.
So if a breach like this does happen, what's the immediate technical step experts recommend to kill those lingering cloud tokens, beyond just resetting the main SSO password?
You need to force a reauthentication or explicit revocation of all active sessions tied to that compromised user across every integrated application. You can't assume resetting the PennKey password automatically logs them out of Salesforce, Box, SAP, etc. You have to actively sever those connections.
And that mass email. Any operational controls recommended there?
Definitely. Given how visibly they weaponize the marketing cloud, it's a strong argument for adding controls like a two-person approval process for sending mass emails, or maybe for large data exports from sensitive systems. It adds a human check, makes it harder for one compromised account to cause widespread, visible damage.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Think about our listeners. Maybe they're students, alumni, donors at Penn, or similar large institutions. What should they be doing right now, based on expert advice? What are the quick wins?
The advice is pretty consistent. First, protect yourself online. Enable multi-factor authentication everywhere you possibly can. Your email, your bank accounts, any university portal or SSO login you have. Make it your default.
Good habit anyway. What else?
Second, assume your data might be out there from this or other breaches. Place a credit freeze with the major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. It's usually free and makes it much harder for someone to open new accounts in your name.
Okay, MFA, credit freeze, anything else?
Third, just be vigilant. Monitors your financial accounts regularly. Set up alerts for unusual activity on bank accounts, credit cards, the basics of digital hygiene.
And there was that specific warning tied to the type of data stolen in the Penn breach. The wealth profiles, the donation history.
Yes, this is probably the highest immediate risk for affected Penn donors and alumni. You need to be extremely wary of new, targeted phishing attempts.
Why are these more dangerous?
Because the attackers now have the specific details to make scams incredibly convincing. An email or call might reference your actual past donation amount, mention a specific university fund you supported, maybe even allude to your estimated wealth.
Making it sound much more credible than a generic scam.
Exponentially more credible. So any unexpected communication asking you to wire money, click a link to update payment details, or provide credentials related to your Penn affiliation, treat it with maximum suspicion. Verify independently through official channels you trust. Don't click the link or call the number in the suspicious message.
This whole Penn breach, it really feels like a textbook example, doesn't it? How failing to secure the identity layer, just one person's credentials, can completely undermine millions spent on firewalls and other tech defenses.
It really does. The human element, exploited via social engineering, combined with the power multiplier of SSO, created the path of least resistance straight to the crown jewels.
And the fallout is already starting, right? You mentioned lawsuits.
Yeah, reports indicate at least 4 class action lawsuits were filed pretty quickly by alumni. They're essentially alleging negligence, that the university didn't have adequate security systems in place to protect this highly sensitive data.
That legal pressure is significant, especially when you're dealing with data on wealthy, influential people. The expectation for security is just higher.
Absolutely. The duty of care is arguably greater when you hold that kind of detailed financial and personal information. A breach like this, especially one initiated through a seemingly preventable method like social engineering bypassing MFA, becomes legally very difficult to defend.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought on this. A provocative question, maybe. If a huge, well-resourced institution like Penn can be breached, like this data exfiltrated in under 24 hours, all stemming from one compromised SSO credential, likely without effective MFA, where does your organization really stand? How mature is your identity and access governance, really? And think about those non-core systems, your CRM, your marketing cloud, your internal analytics tools. What data is sitting there right now that would be the most valuable skeleton key for an attacker?
And critically, if that system's access token was compromised, how quickly could you actually revoke it? Not just reset the main password, but kill that specific application access.
Feels like the focus has fundamentally shifted, doesn't it? From just building higher walls around the perimeter.
To meticulously securing every single key holder, every identity, and ensuring those keys don't unlock more doors than absolutely necessary or stay valid after they shouldn't. That's the hard lesson from Penn in 2025.
Essential analysis really gets to the heart of modern cyber defense challenges. Thanks for breaking down the technical side of this critical identity failure for us.
My pleasure. It's a crucial case study.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.